In the dimly lit ambiance of the luxurious restaurant, the sound of clinking glasses and muted conversations enveloped the atmosphere like a rich velvet curtain. Emily settled into her seat, adjusting her simple yet elegant dress, feeling slightly out of place among the glitz surrounding her. It was supposed to be just another dinner with friends, a break from her routine. Yet her gaze wandered beyond the table to the entrance, where a distinguished figure stepped in. Viktor Volkov. The name echoed in her mind like a whisper of intrigue. She had heard the stories, a mafia boss renowned for his power and ruthlessness. Yet, standing tall against the backdrop of polished marble and golden chandeliers, he radiated an undeniable magnetism. His sharp suit clung to his frame as if it were tailored by artisans, and his presence commanded the room, silencing conversations as he passed. Emily found herself drawn to him against her better judgment. As Victor scanned the room, his piercing gaze landed on her. Her heart raced, caught off guard by the raw intensity of his stare. She quickly averted her eyes, pretending to be engrossed in her conversation, though her mind raced. Who was she to be caught in the web of a man like him? The very essence of danger clung to him, yet there was something inexplicably alluring about that danger. "You look lost, Emily." The voice broke her reverie, and she glanced up to find Victor standing beside her table. He had moved with an effortless grace, a predator surveying his territory. Her friends exchanged glances, mouths agape, a mix of awe and surprise. "You know my name?" she stammered, her confidence wavering under his scrutiny. "I've heard it mentioned in circles," he replied, a hint of amusement glimmering in his dark eyes. "You possess a certain charm that piques curiosity." Emily felt a flush creep up her neck. "I don't think charm is the word you're looking for," she replied, attempting to mask her nervousness with humor. Victor's lips curved into a subtle smile, showcasing a side of him that felt unexpectedly warm amidst the chill of his reputation. "And what word would you suggest?" Taken aback by his playful engagement, Emily fought to maintain her composure. "How about ordinary?" she quipped, surprising herself with her boldness. His laughter rolled out like thunder, deep and rich. "Ordinary, you say? Doesn't seem to suit you," he replied, his gaze lingering on her. "In a world of excess, where diamonds gleam and power dances in shadows, it's the ordinary that catches my attention." A strange thrill coursed through her at his words, igniting a spark she hadn't anticipated. She was a waitress, struggling to balance rent and her aspirations, yet here was a man who belonged to a realm far beyond her own, finding interest in her. As the conversation unfolded, Victor leaned closer, their proximity igniting an unspoken tension between them. He spoke of the city, wrapping it in a tale of power and prestige, while she listened, hanging on every word. There was a strength to him, a vulnerability hidden behind layers of control, a man who danced on the brink of danger yet carried an air of loneliness. But then reality crashed over her like a wave. The life she had built, the independence she cherished, felt threatened by the magnetic pull she felt toward Victor. It was a dangerous game to flirt with someone like him. She was not ready to be swept into a world of shadows, no matter how intoxicating his presence was. And yet, there was an alluring mystery about him that beckoned her closer. "What do you enjoy most about this city?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tempest of emotions whirling within her. He paused, a flicker of something deeper crossing his features. "Secrets," he said, his voice a low whisper. "Everyone wears a mask. It's what lies beneath that fascinates me." His gaze bore into hers, challenging, as if he could see through the facade she had built around her heart. A shiver ran down her spine. "What's beneath your mask, Victor?" she countered, pushing back against the sudden vulnerability he had unearthed in her. He regarded her with a seriousness that sent a thrill of fear and excitement racing through her. What lies beneath is always more complicated than what the world perceives. His eyes darkened for a moment before flickering away, as if the weight of his own truths had momentarily paralyzed him. Just then, the atmosphere shifted and the moment of connection shattered. Victor received a call, his attention drawn away as he stepped back, his demeanor transforming into the impenetrable wall she had first perceived. Emily watched as he turned slightly, engaged in a serious conversation, the warmth of their earlier connection replaced by an invisible barrier. Her heart sank. It was a reminder of the world he inhabited, a world she had no business being drawn into. And yet, as Victor walked back toward her, that flicker of curiosity ignited once more. "I have to go," he said, his voice now a touch more guarded. "But I have a feeling this isn't the last time we'll meet." Before she could respond, he was gone, swallowed by the crowd, leaving Emily at her table, her heart racing. Questions swirled in her mind. Who was he really? How did she feel about him? And was she truly prepared to step into his world? With each passing moment, her resolve began to waver, curiosity gnawing at her like a persistent whisper. She took a deep breath, grounding herself amidst the chaos. There was something about Victor that was far from ordinary, and she couldn't shake the feeling that her life had just veered off its predictable course. The night was far from over, and this encounter was just the spark of something dangerously intriguing. The night stretched on, each second hanging in the air like a fragile thread. Emily's heart raced under Victor's intense scrutiny, and she could feel the weight of her friend's astonished stares lingering on her. As the conversations around them resumed, she found herself grappling with the whirlwind of emotions swirling within her, a mix of fear and an undeniable thrill. "What do your friends think of me?" Victor asked, tilting his head slightly, a playful glint in his eyes. His demeanor was captivating, yet she sensed the predator lurking beneath his polished exterior. "They're probably wondering why I'm talking to you," Emily admitted, half joking, yet her heartbeat betrayed her. The truth was, she was wondering the same. Victor leaned back, arms crossed, a bemused smile playing on his lips. Curiosity is a powerful thing, isn't it? But isn't that what makes life interesting? The unknown? As his words washed over her, Emily felt a sudden urge to break the tension. "You must be used to curiosity," she said, shifting slightly in her seat. "People must find you fascinating." He studied her for a moment, as if trying to unravel the layers behind her ordinary facade. "Or dangerous," he replied, his voice low and filled with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. The line between fascination and danger is often blurred in my world. A silence fell between them, thick and heavy. Just as she was about to respond, a familiar voice broke through the haze. "Emily, are you coming to the bathroom with me?" It was Sarah, one of her closest friends, and the urgency in her tone suggested she had something to say. Sure," Emily responded, grateful for the interruption. She shot an apologetic glance at Victor before rising to her feet. As she walked away, she could feel Victor's gaze following her, an invisible thread connecting them even as she put distance between them. In the restroom, Sarah leaned against the sink, her expression a mix of excitement and concern. "What was that? You were talking to Victor Volkov? Do you know who he is?" Emily washed her hands, avoiding her reflection in the mirror. "Just a guy at a restaurant, right?" "Just a guy?" Sarah's voice was incredulous. "He's not just any guy, Em. He's the Bratva boss. They say he's ruthless, that he runs this city from the shadows. People fear him." A knot tightened in Emily's stomach. "I know who he is, Sarah, but he was just charming." The word felt strange on her tongue, especially when reflecting on someone with such a notorious reputation. Charming? You think that's all there is to him? He's dangerous, Emily. You don't want to get mixed up in that world. You're not cut out for it. A part of Emily wanted to agree, to nod and dismiss Victor as merely a fleeting encounter. But another part of her was intrigued. But what if there's more to him? He didn't come off as intimidating, just different, complex. Complex. Complexity is just a fancy word for trouble. You have dreams, ambitions. Why would you risk everything for a man like that? As they exited the restroom, the chatter of the restaurant enveloped them once more, but Emily's mind was swirling. Victor's laughter echoed in her ears, the way he had leaned in when he spoke to her, the way his eyes had held hers. There was something magnetic about him that she couldn't shake off. Returning to the table, she found Victor waiting, a glass of whiskey in his hand, held at a precise angle as he engaged with her friends. The moment she approached, his gaze shifted, honing in on her with that familiar intensity. "I was just telling your friends how rare it is to meet someone who stands out in a world of shadows," he said, a hint of challenge in his tone. Emily bit her lip, gathering her thoughts. "And what do you believe makes me stand out?" He studied her, the moments stretching like an eternity before he replied, "You are not intimidated by the unknown. Most people would cower. You, however, seem more intrigued by it." A thrill shot through her, but dread accompanied it. He was right. The thrill of the unknown was intoxicating, yet she couldn't deny the risks involved. "Maybe I'm just foolhardy," she said, attempting to inject some humor into the tense air. "Or perhaps you're simply brave," Victor countered, his voice low, a flicker of something deeper passing between them. As the night progressed, Emily felt the walls she had built around her heart begin to erode. The conversations flowed easily, a dance of words where tension intertwined with laughter. Victor's presence was magnetic, drawing her in even as she fought to keep her distance. But the world outside the restaurant was a constant reminder of the danger lurking in the shadows. As she glanced out the window, she saw a sleek black car parked across the street, engines quietly humming. An unsettling feeling crept over her, a reminder that Victor was a man of power, and power came with its own threats. "Are you all right?" Victor asked, his voice slicing through her thoughts as he leaned closer, concern etched on his features. "Yeah, just tired," she lied, forcing a smile. He seemed unconvinced, studying her as if searching for the truth beneath her facade. "You don't have to pretend with me, Emily. I appreciate honesty." "Honesty can be dangerous too," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The irony of her own words didn't escape her. A moment of silence fell between them, heavy with unspoken understanding. The gravity of the situation began to settle in Emily's mind. She was drawn to Victor, but with every passing minute, she could feel the weight of his world threatening to engulf her. As the evening wound down, Victor stood, offering her his hand. "Shall we?" For a split second, Emily hesitated, her heart racing at the thought of stepping into the abyss he represented. But as she looked into his eyes, she found a flicker of warmth, a promise of something real beneath the surface of danger. With a deep breath, she took his hand, her resolve wavering. "Let's see where this goes," she murmured, her voice steady despite the fear churning within her. As they stepped out into the night, Emily was acutely aware that she was crossing a threshold into a life filled with shadows and danger, pulling her deeper into Victor's world. And yet, a part of her couldn't help but feel exhilarated by the impending adventure, even as caution whispered warnings in her ear. What lay ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. She was no longer just an ordinary woman. She was entangled in the web of a mafia boss, and there was no turning back. Emily returned to the table, her heart still racing from the encounter in the restroom. Victor's presence loomed larger than life, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was unfolding. As she took her seat, the air around her seemed charged with electricity, a palpable tension that was both exhilarating and terrifying. Victor lifted his glass toward her, a slight smile playing on his lips. "You seem contemplative," he observed, his tone teasing yet serious. "What thoughts are swirling in that beautiful mind of yours?" Caught off guard, Emily hesitated. She could feel her friends watching, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. How could she explain the whirlwind of emotions he stirred within her? "I was just thinking about how different our worlds are," she replied, attempting to keep her voice steady. "Different or parallel?" he countered, leaning in slightly, his gaze intensifying. "You might find similarities where you least expect them." Emily swallowed hard, her pulse quickening. "Like what?" Victor's eyes sparkled with mischief. "The desire for something greater. The thrill of stepping outside one's comfort zone." His words resonated deeply within her, igniting a flame of curiosity. Was she really stepping outside her comfort zone, or was she just flirting with danger? Before she could respond, Victor's phone buzzed on the table, the noise cutting through their intimate moment. He glanced at the screen, his expression shifting slightly. "Excuse me for a moment," he said, his tone suddenly businesslike. As he stepped away to take the call, Emily turned to her friends, who wore expressions of disbelief. "You were just talking to him like he's a regular guy," Sarah exclaimed, her voice a whisper. "Do you know who he is?" "Yes, Sarah, I know," Emily replied, her frustration bubbling just below the surface. "But he's not just a mafia boss. He's interesting." "Interesting? That's one way to describe a man who might have people killed for crossing him." Sarah's voice escalated, drawing the attention of nearby tables. Emily lowered her voice, a hint of defiance coloring her tone. "Maybe he's more than that. Maybe he's just a man trying to figure things out." "Em, you need to be careful," Sarah warned, her eyes darting toward Victor as he returned to the table, his call seemingly concluded. "Are you ready to order?" Victor asked, his attention shifting back to Emily, a faint smile returning. "Yeah, I think so," Emily replied, her voice steadier now. "I'll have the risotto." Victor raised an eyebrow, impressed. "A woman of refined taste. I like that." The compliment sent a flush to her cheeks, and she found herself smiling back at him, despite the chaotic thoughts racing through her mind. As the waiter took their orders, Victor leaned closer, the distance between them shrinking. "You're not like the others, are you?" he mused, his voice low and inviting. "You challenge me." "Maybe I just don't take you at face value," Emily said, surprising herself with her boldness. "That's a refreshing perspective," he replied, his eyes darkening with a deeper intensity. "Most people only see the surface of things and run away from what they don't understand." "And what do you see?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. He paused, searching her eyes as if weighing his words. "I see strength. You're not afraid to explore the unknown, even if it's dangerous." Emily felt her heart skip a beat. Was he acknowledging her strength or simply toying with her emotions? "You might be underestimating me," she challenged, feeling emboldened. "Perhaps," he admitted, a glimmer of respect in his gaze, "but I think you underestimate the world I come from." The moment hung between them, thick with tension. Emily felt the magnetic pull of his presence, drawing her in further. "I'm beginning to see that," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. As the food arrived, the atmosphere shifted once more. The restaurant, alive with laughter and chatter, seemed to fade into the background as they became lost in their own world. Victor shared stories from his life, tales rich with danger and intrigue, and Emily found herself hanging on every word, captivated by the man behind the mask of the mafia boss. Yet, with each story he told, her fascination was tinged with trepidation. She was aware that this allure came with a price, a reminder that stepping closer to Victor meant venturing into a world where shadows lurked and danger was a constant companion. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter and shared glances that lingered just a moment too long. Emily felt a warmth growing between them, a connection that was both exhilarating and frightening. She couldn't deny her growing attraction, yet the stark reality of who he was loomed over her like a dark cloud. Suddenly, Victor's demeanor shifted. He leaned back, his expression turning serious. "Emily, what do you want?" The question hung heavy in the air. She wasn't prepared for such directness. "What do you mean?" "I mean, why are you here, with me?" His eyes bore into hers, searching for truth. Emily opened her mouth to speak, but the words caught in her throat. What did she want? The thrill of the chase? The allure of the forbidden? Or was it something deeper? "Maybe I just want to understand," she replied finally, her voice trembling slightly. Victor's gaze softened, and for a fleeting moment, she saw the vulnerability hiding behind the steel facade. "Understanding can lead to complications," he warned, a flicker of concern crossing his face. "I'm not afraid of complications," she said, surprising herself with her conviction. "You should," he replied, his voice low, a hint of a warning lacing his tone. The tension between them thickened, and Emily felt her resolve wavering. She was drawn to him, yet every instinct screamed that she was stepping into dangerous territory. The chemistry between them was undeniable, but the stakes were rising, and she was no longer sure if she could navigate the path ahead without losing herself in the process. As the evening wore on, the boundaries of their worlds blurred, and Emily found herself teetering on the edge of a decision that could change everything. Would she pull back, retreat to her safe life, or leap forward into the unknown, embracing the chaos that Victor represented? The answer eluded her, but one thing was clear: her life was about to take a turn she never anticipated. Victor's phone buzzed once again, interrupting the moment. He glanced at it, tension building in his jaw. "I have to take this," he said, standing up. "But don't go anywhere, Emily. I'll be right back." As he walked away, Emily felt a rush of conflicting emotions. She was drawn to him, yet the danger loomed larger than ever, casting shadows over her heart. Would she be able to resist the pull of this man and the world he represented, or was she already in too deep? With a heavy heart, she watched him disappear into the crowd, the weight of her choices hanging in the air like an unspoken promise. The restaurant's ambience shifted dramatically as the evening progressed, the once jubilant atmosphere now thick with an undercurrent of tension. Emily's heart raced, not just from Victor's lingering gaze, but from an inexplicable sense that danger was on the horizon. As their meals were served, she noticed Victor's demeanor change, a shadow fleeting across his features as he surveyed the room with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. A low voice broke through her thoughts, the murmur of Victor's men surrounding their table becoming more pronounced. She caught snippets of conversation, words like deal, rival, and consequences punctuating the air. Emily felt her stomach twist. She was no longer just a spectator in this world. She was entangled in something much larger, something perilous. Victor's phone buzzed again, this time more insistent. He answered it swiftly, his voice low and controlled, but Emily could sense the tension coiling around him. She leaned in, trying to catch his words, her curiosity mingling with concern. "I don't care what they think," he said, his tone sharp. "We have a problem." As he hung up, his eyes found hers, and she could see the flicker of vulnerability hidden beneath his composed facade. "Emily," he began, his voice steady but laced with urgency, "we might have to leave soon." The gravity of his words struck her, and for a moment, all thoughts of dinner vanished. "Why? What's happening?" The concern in her voice was unmistakable, and Victor's gaze softened. "There's a rival gang making moves in my territory. "They're not here for pleasantries," he explained, the tension in his voice palpable. The revelation sent a jolt through her, grounding her in the harsh reality of his world. "We need to get out of here before things escalate." Without thinking, Emily responded, "What can I do?" The question surprised even her, but something deep inside urged her to act. Victor looked at her, a mixture of admiration and disbelief crossing his features. "You don't have to get involved," he replied, but the way he studied her told her he was weighing her words carefully. "No, really, I want to help. I can't just sit back and let you deal with this alone," she declared, her voice firm. Emily had always prided herself on her independence, and now was no time to shrink back. She could see the conflict playing out in Victor's eyes. He wanted to protect her, yet he respected her courage. "Very well," he conceded, a hint of a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "But listen to me. This is dangerous, and I won't forgive myself if something happens to you." The weight of his concern was heavy, but it fueled her determination. Emily felt a surge of adrenaline. She was no longer just an outsider gazing into the world of the Mafia. She was stepping onto the battlefield. As they stood to leave, Victor subtly signaled his men to surround her, creating a protective barrier. The restaurant, which had felt welcoming just moments ago, now seemed like a ticking time bomb. The clatter of silverware and laughter faded into the background as Emily focused solely on Victor, their connection deepening amidst the chaos. "Stick close to me," he instructed, his voice low. "If anything happens, don't panic, just follow my lead." She nodded, her heart pounding, not just from fear, but from a burgeoning sense of purpose. They moved cautiously toward the exit, the atmosphere thickening with every step. Suddenly, the front door swung open violently, and a group of men entered, their presence commanding and threatening. Emily's breath caught in her throat as she recognized the emblem on their jackets, a rival gang notorious for their ruthlessness. Victor's posture changed, and the air crackled with tension as he prepared for confrontation. "What do we do?" Emily whispered, her pulse racing. Victor turned to her, his eyes fierce yet protective. "Stay behind me. Whatever happens, don't leave my side." The men moved closer, their leader's arrogant smirk evident as he locked eyes with Victor. "I heard you've been making a name for yourself, Volkov, but it seems your little empire is about to crumble," he taunted, a dangerous glint in his eye. Victor stepped forward, his voice calm but filled with authority. "You're mistaken if you think you can intimidate me in my own territory." The tension escalated, and Emily felt the shift in the atmosphere, a palpable anticipation of violence crackling in the air. "Is that so?" the leader replied, his tone mocking. "We'll see how well you defend what's yours." Just as things seemed poised to explode, Victor's grip tightened around Emily's arm, his stance protective. "Get out now, Emily," he ordered, his voice firm. But she didn't want to leave. She wanted to prove that she belonged. "No, I'm not going anywhere," she shouted, surprising even herself. Victor's gaze met hers, a flash of admiration in his eyes, but the reality of their situation loomed larger than their moment of connection. It was now or never. She had to make a choice. "Stay with me," he said, a plea woven into his voice. The tension in the room was suffocating, and Emily's heart raced as she felt the stakes heighten. Was this truly her moment to step into Victor's world, to show her strength and courage? Or would it all come crashing down around them in an instant? As the rival gang moved closer, a sudden decision crystallized within her. Emily would not cower in the face of danger. She would stand by Victor's side, ready to fight for what she believed in. She took a deep breath, the weight of her resolve igniting a fire within her. "Let's do this," she whispered, her eyes locked onto Victor's, and in that moment she knew she had crossed a threshold. The world around them faded away, leaving only their shared determination, as they braced themselves for the storm that was about to erupt. Together, they would face whatever chaos the night had in store. The tension in the restaurant intensified as the group of men entered, their presence palpable and charged with hostility. Emily's breath quickened, her instincts screaming for her to flee, yet she felt gravity pull her deeper into the chaos. Victor's figure loomed protectively in front of her, a fortress against the encroaching storm. "Stay close," he urged, his voice low but commanding as he subtly shifted his body to shield her. The newcomers scanned the room, their eyes locking onto Victor with a mix of disdain and challenge. Emily's heart sank, recognizing that this was no mere encounter. It was a declaration of war. The leader of the rival gang stepped forward, a smirk playing on his lips, his confidence radiating menace. "Victor Volkov," he sneered, "still playing king in your little castle, I see. Tell me, how well can you defend what's yours?" Victor's jaw tightened, his icy demeanor barely concealing the storm brewing beneath the surface. "You should know by now that I don't take kindly to intrusions," he replied, his tone flat, yet laced with a promise of violence. Emily felt the weight of his words as if they were a tangible shield, wrapping around her in an embrace of both fear and adrenaline. "What a quaint little dinner you've got here," the rival boss continued, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "But I must say, it's a shame to see a woman like her in such a dangerous place." He gestured toward Emily, his eyes raking over her with blatant disrespect. A spark ignited within her. She refused to be reduced to a pawn in this power play. "Don't speak to her," Victor snapped, his protectiveness flaring. The shift in his demeanor was striking. The calm, collected man she had come to know was now a fierce guardian, ready to defend what was his. Emily's pulse raced, not just from fear, but from the rush of being included in this world, a world she had only glimpsed from the outside. "Or what?" the rival gang leader challenged, stepping closer, clearly reveling in the tension. "You'll threaten me? You, who has always been a step behind, trying to reclaim what's slipping through your fingers?" The taunts hung in the air, thickening the already tense atmosphere. In that moment, Emily made a decision. She wouldn't let Victor face this threat alone, nor would she allow herself to be perceived as helpless. "I'm not just a woman in a dangerous place," she interjected, her voice steady and clear, surprising even herself. All eyes turned toward her, including Victor's, which softened momentarily with pride. "Do you really want to provoke him?" Victor warned, a flicker of concern breaking through his steely exterior. But Emily could sense that her declaration had shifted something in him, a recognition of her as an equal, not just a partner to protect. "I'm saying that I stand with you, Victor," she insisted, her gaze unwavering. "If this is your fight, it's mine too." The challenge in her words hung in the air, electrifying the space around them. The rival gang leader laughed, a harsh, mocking sound that echoed through the tension-filled room. "This is rich. The pretty little waitress thinks she can help the big bad mafia boss? What a joke." "Enough," Victor warned, his anger simmering just beneath the surface. "You've crossed the line. You don't just threaten me, you threaten everything I care about." His words were a promise of retribution, and Emily felt a rush of exhilaration at his fierce commitment. "Let's settle this like men, then," the rival leader sneered, his bravado faltering ever so slightly. "No weapons, just you and me, Victor. If you win, I'll withdraw my guys. If you lose, well, I hope you've made peace with your woman." Victor's eyes narrowed, weighing the implications of the challenge. Emily could see the gears turning in his mind, the battle between strategic caution and the fiery need to protect rising within him. "I'll accept," he finally said, his voice a quiet storm. "No!" Emily gasped, stepping forward instinctively, her heart pounding with dread. "You can't!" Victor turned to her, his expression softening slightly, yet resolute. "I have to, Emily. It's the only way to settle this without further bloodshed." "But what if you get hurt?" Her voice trembled with fear as the reality of the situation crashed over her. "You can't risk everything for a stupid challenge." "I won't let them take you," he replied fiercely, his gaze locking onto hers. "I won't allow that. Trust me." The tension coiled tighter, and Emily felt a surge of vulnerability amidst her burgeoning courage. "I do trust you," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper, "but I can't just stand here and do nothing." The rival boss laughed again, his amusement infuriating. "You think you can influence him? How quaint." "I can influence him by standing by his side," she declared, her heart racing with conviction. "He's not alone in this fight. I won't let him face this without me." For a moment, the room fell silent, the tension thick like smoke. Victor looked at her, a flicker of surprise mixed with admiration sparking in his eyes. The realization washed over him. This woman, who had once seemed like an innocent bystander, was now an integral part of his life, and perhaps his strength. "Then we do this together," he said finally, the decision solidifying in the air. No more hiding. As they prepared to face the challenge, Emily felt a newfound sense of purpose. Whatever lay ahead, she was no longer just a passenger in Victor's world. She was a warrior alongside him, ready to confront the chaos they were about to face, determined to fight for their bond and their future. With one last glance exchanged that spoke volumes, they faced the rival gang leader, the stakes heightened and the tension crackling like electricity between them. No longer just a mafia boss and a common woman, they stood united, ready to embrace the turmoil that awaited them, fueled by the undeniable chemistry that had blossomed amidst the danger. The moment was charged, the air thick with the promise of conflict, but also of something deeper, a connection that would be tested in the fire of adversity and forged in the heat of passion. As they stepped into the fray, Emily knew that whatever the outcome, they would always be stronger together. Emily's heart pounded in her chest as the words left Victor's lips, a quiet storm promising violence. The very air around them felt electrified, charged with the weight of unsaid emotions that threatened to spill over. "No," she gasped, stepping forward instinctively, the breath catching in her throat as she struggled to contain the surge of urgency that washed over her. "You can't do this." Victor's gaze flickered to her, a mixture of surprise and frustration shadowing his eyes. "Emily, this isn't your fight. I can't let you get hurt." His voice was a low growl, filled with the intensity of a man who had faced countless threats, but had never cared about anyone the way he cared about her. "But it is my fight now," she insisted, unwavering in her stance. The rival gang leader's mocking laughter echoed in the background, further igniting her determination. "I won't be sidelined just because I'm a woman. I'm here and I'm with you." The words hung in the air, heavy with the promise of solidarity. The rival boss smirked, glancing between them with disdain. "Oh, how sweet. The little lady thinks she can play hero. But does she understand the stakes?" His tone dripped with condescension, but Emily's resolve only strengthened. Victor's expression shifted, a flicker of admiration breaking through the veneer of his protective instincts. He had always seen her as a partner, but this was different. This was a recognition of her strength, her willingness to stand beside him. "You don't know what you're asking for," he warned softly, but there was a hint of respect in his voice now. I know exactly what I'm asking for, Victor, she breathed, stepping closer, feeling the intensity of the moment. I want to be by your side in whatever comes next. I'm tired of standing on the sidelines. Her eyes locked onto his, a silent challenge passing between them. In this moment, they were not just a mafia boss and a waitress. They were two people caught in a storm, ready to face it together. The rival leader's grin faltered slightly, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. How touching, but let's not get sentimental. He squared his shoulders, his bravado returning. You want to fight for him? Fine, but if you're in for the whole ride. No backing down. Victor's jaw clenched, a mixture of anger and pride swelling within him. I'll take the challenge, he declared, his voice steady, solidifying the decision that was now made. Emily felt a rush of adrenaline at his words. This was no longer just about survival. It was about their bond, their connection forged in the fires of conflict. She felt a sense of empowerment, a surge of bravery she hadn't known existed within her. Then I'm all in, she affirmed, her voice unwavering. The rival gang leader scoffed, a flicker of annoyance flaring in his eyes. Very well, but don't say I didn't warn you when this all goes south. I'll enjoy watching you both fall. With a nod, Victor stepped forward, his posture shifting to that of a man prepared to defend not just himself, but the woman beside him. As they moved closer to the center of the tension, the men surrounding the table became mere shadows, the chaos outside fading into the background. In that charged moment, Emily saw the man beneath the cold exterior, the one who had been forced to adopt a hard shell to survive. She could feel the pain of his past, the scars that shaped him, and she knew that he was fighting not just for territory, but for a future that included her. Whatever happens, I'm here, she whispered, her words laced with conviction. Taking a breath, Victor faced the rival leader, the air thick with unspoken promises. Let's settle this like men, he repeated, his voice a calm before the storm. No tricks, no weapons, just us. Fine, the rival boss snapped, his bravado slipping slightly. I'm ready to show you just how weak you've become. As they stepped into the center of the restaurant, the world around them faded, leaving only the two men and the pulsating tension that surrounded them. Emily's heart raced, her pulse quickening with every step Victor took forward. She couldn't help but admire his strength, the way he commanded the space even when faced with danger. The rival boss lunged first, a flurry of movement that made Emily gasp. Victor dodged skillfully, his reflexes sharp, honed by years of surviving in the underbelly of the city. Each blow exchanged was a testament to their respective pasts, their histories intertwining in a brutal dance of strength and strategy. Emily's heart raced, her pulse quickening with every step Victor took forward. She couldn't help but admire his strength, the way he commanded the space even when faced with danger. The rival boss lunged first, a flurry of movement that made Emily gasp. Victor dodged skillfully, his reflexes sharp-honed by years of surviving in the underbelly of the city. Each blow exchanged was a testament to their respective pasts, their histories intertwining in a brutal dance of strength and strategy. As the fight unfolded, Emily felt every punch land like a drumbeat echoing in her chest. She was no longer just a spectator. She was part of this world, this chaos that had once frightened her. She could sense the stakes rising with each clash, not just for Victor's territory, but for their future together. "Stay back," Victor shouted, glancing at her for a split second, the protective instinct flaring again. But Emily didn't back down. She stood firm and watched with bated breath, her heart swelling with a fierce pride. She had chosen to be here, to face this dangerous world alongside him. In a final, climactic moment, Victor found an opening, channeling all his pent-up energy into a precise strike that sent the rival leader crashing to the floor. The room fell silent, the tension snapping like a taut wire, and Emily's breath caught in her throat. Victor stood over his opponent, chest heaving, the weight of victory heavy in the air. In that moment, Emily saw the man who had fought against his past, against the darkness that had threatened to swallow him whole, and she realized that he was fighting not just for power, but for the chance to finally be free. As Victor turned to her, the fire in his eyes softened, and she could see the raw vulnerability there. "I'm sorry for putting you in this position," he breathed, his voice low, the tension lifting slightly. "I never wanted you to see this side of me." But she stepped forward, grounding him with her presence. "It's part of who you are, and I want to understand that," she replied, her voice steady. "I'm not afraid, not anymore." The connection between them deepened, a shared understanding that transcended the chaos around them. This moment, amidst the danger, had forged an unbreakable bond, one that would guide them into the uncertain future ahead. As the rival gang members retreated, defeated, Emily felt a wave of relief wash over her. The immediate threat had dissipated, but the real victory was the realization of their love, born in the heat of battle. She reached out to Victor, their fingers intertwining, a silent promise of commitment that would carry them through whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they stood in the aftermath of chaos, two hearts intertwined, ready to face the world side by side. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: they had each other, and that was more than enough to face anything that came their way. The tension in the room crackled like electricity, a palpable force that held Victor and Emily in a tight grip. As they faced the rival gang leader, the atmosphere transformed, shifting from one of mere hostility to an undeniable alliance forged in the fires of adversity. Emily could feel her heart racing, not just from fear, but from a newfound sense of purpose. She had stepped into a world that was far from ordinary, yet she found strength in the chaos that surrounded them. Victor stood tall, his demeanor a blend of cold authority and fierce protectiveness. "You think you can intimidate us?" he challenged, his voice steady despite the storm brewing within. The rival boss smirked, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes as he assessed the unexpected unity between Victor and Emily. "You're playing a dangerous game, Victor, you and your little girlfriend." "Don't underestimate her," Victor replied, his gaze unwavering. Emily felt a warmth spread through her at his words, a recognition of her strength that she had only just begun to embrace. She had always been the one to blend into the background, but now, standing beside Victor, she felt as if she was stepping into the light. "I'm not just a girlfriend," she interjected, her voice steady, carrying the weight of her conviction. "I'm here to fight. I won't back down because of who I am. I'm not afraid of your threats." The rival leader's laughter echoed mockingly, but Emily held her ground, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. "Very brave of you," he sneered, "but bravery doesn't win wars. You'll regret this choice." The tension in the room thickened, and Victor's expression hardened. He took a step closer to Emily, their shoulders brushing against each other, a silent promise of support that anchored her resolve. "Let's settle this once and for all," Victor declared, his voice low and fierce. "No tricks, no weapons, just us." The rival boss hesitated, his bravado faltering for the first time. The challenge hung in the air, a dare that could change everything. "Fine," he finally spat, his confidence returning but now tainted with uncertainty. "But don't come crying to me when it all goes south." Victor nodded, a firm acceptance of the challenge set before them. Emily felt the gravity of the moment settle around them like a heavy cloak, enveloping them in a shared determination. As they prepared to face off, Victor turned to Emily, his gaze softening for a brief moment. "Whatever happens, I need you to stay close. Trust me." She nodded, the weight of his words sinking deep into her heart. This was not just a battle for survival, it was a fight for their future, a chance to redefine who they were together. When they stepped into the center of the restaurant, the world blurred around them, leaving only the two of them and the rival leader. Emily could feel the intensity of Victor's presence beside her, a protective force that made her feel invincible. The rival boss sneered, a desperate attempt to regain control of the situation. "You think you can win against me? You've lost your edge, Victor." With a swift motion, Victor moved forward, his fists clenched, ready to defend not just his territory, but the woman who stood beside him. Emily felt a rush of adrenaline surge through her veins. She knew that whatever transpired, they would face it together, united against the chaos. The rival leader lunged first, but Victor was faster, his movements fluid and precise. Emily watched in awe as he navigated the confrontation with a fierce determination. Yet, even in the midst of the chaos, she could see glimpses of vulnerability flickering in his eyes. A man fighting not just for power, but for a future that included both of them. As the fight escalated, Emily felt her heart race, a mix of fear and excitement coursing through her. She had never imagined herself in a situation like this. Yet here she was, standing firm beside the man who had become her unexpected partner. "Victor," she called out, her voice cutting through the tension. "I'm right here." In that moment, their eyes locked, a silent acknowledgement of the bond they had forged through struggle. Victor's expression shifted, a flicker of gratitude mingling with the fierce determination that defined him. He fought not just for himself, but for the promise of a life they could build together, a life free from the shadows of the past. With one final surge of energy, Victor outmaneuvered his opponent, the rival boss stumbling back as the fight came to a head. Emily felt a rush of triumph wash over her, an exhilarating reminder of the strength they had discovered in each other. As the dust settled, Victor stood victorious, breathing heavily but resolute. The rival leader retreated, knowing he had underestimated them both. Emily rushed to Victor's side, her heart swelling with pride and relief. "We did it," she whispered, feeling the weight of their victory lift them into a new chapter of their lives. Victor turned to her, his expression softening. "You were incredible," he said, awe lacing his voice. "I never expected you to stand by me like that." She smiled, feeling empowered by the recognition. "I've learned from the best," she replied, her voice steady. In that moment, they stood together, two souls intertwined in a world that had once seemed insurmountable. The chaos of their lives began to fade, leaving behind the promise of something new. "Whatever comes next, we face it together," Victor vowed, his gaze unwavering. As they stepped out into the night, hand in hand, the city around them pulsed with life. Emily felt a sense of hope blossoming within her, a belief that they could navigate the complexities of their lives together. The challenges ahead were daunting, but they were no longer alone. They had forged a connection that transcended the chaos, a bond that would guide them through whatever lay ahead. "Together," she echoed, her heart full of determination. They walked forward, ready to embrace whatever the future held, united in their love and resilience, ready to carve their own path in a world that had once threatened to tear them apart. "Together," she echoed, her heart full of determination. They walked forward, ready to embrace whatever the future held, united in their love and resilience, ready to carve their own path in a world that had once threatened to tear them apart.